Right now, as you're watching this video, there is a very good chance that your blood pressure is too high, and you have absolutely no idea. No symptoms, no pain, no warning signs. That's exactly why hypertension has earned the name it has, the silent killer. Over 1 billion people worldwide have high blood pressure. That's 1 in every 8 people on this planet. And studies suggest up to 46% of them don't even know it. Now here's what I want you to understand from the very beginning of this video, and I need you to stay with me on this because it is going to change how you look at your next meal. A cardiologist at Northwestern Medicine said it best, and I want to quote him directly. Quote, "Diet and lifestyle can have a profound impact on blood pressure, and it's worth as much as 1 or 2 pills. It's just as potent." 1 or 2 pills. From food, not supplements, not powders. Real food that you can buy at any market. That is what this video is about. 17 foods, backed by clinical studies, that work directly on the mechanisms inside your body that drive high blood pressure. We're going to cover what each food does, how much you actually need, and why most people are ignoring the most powerful ones. Up to 50% of all heart attacks and strokes, 50%, are caused by untreated hypertension. Not genetics alone, not just bad luck. High blood pressure that nobody caught, but didn't manage aggressively enough. Now, I want to be clear before we go any further. If your blood pressure is dangerously high, please work with your doctor. Medication saves lives. That is not in question here. But what is in question, what millions of people are getting completely wrong, is this. Food is not just background noise to your blood pressure management. In many cases, it is the treatment. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to eat, why it works, and what the science actually says. Stay with me, because a few of the foods on this list are going to genuinely surprise you. Before we get into the food list, you need to understand one key thing. What is blood pressure actually doing in your body, and why does food affect it so dramatically? Think about a garden hose. When the pressure inside is too high for too long, the hose starts to crack and wear. The same thing happens to your blood vessels. Over time, high blood pressure causes tiny tears in the inner lining of your arteries, the endothelial cells. Those tears lead to inflammation, plaque buildup, and eventually heart attacks and strokes. Now here's where food comes in. There are 4 key nutrients that directly affect how your blood vessels behave. Number 1, potassium. Think of potassium as the antidote to sodium. Where sodium stiffens and tightens blood vessels, potassium relaxes them. It also helps your kidneys flush out excess sodium through urine. Studies show that increasing potassium-rich foods alone can lower your systolic blood pressure by 5 to 7 points. Number 2, magnesium. Like potassium, magnesium directly relaxes the smooth muscle in your blood vessel walls, allowing them to expand and reduce pressure. Number 3, nitrates. Not the bad nitrates in processed meat, the natural nitrates in vegetables and berries. These convert inside your body into nitric oxide, a compound that causes blood vessels to dilate, literally opens them up wider, reducing the pressure inside. Number 4, omega-3 fatty acids. These reduce the systemic inflammation that stiffens arteries and drives blood pressure up over time. Now let's talk about sodium for just a moment because this reframes everything that follows. 80% of the sodium you consume doesn't come from the salt shaker. It comes from processed foods and restaurant meals. I want to tell you what happened in Finland because this is one of the most astonishing real-world experiments in food and blood pressure ever conducted. A few decades ago, Finland passed laws requiring warning labels on high-sodium foods and promotional labels on low-sodium, high-potassium options. They made sure food still tasted great. Even McDonald's was pressured into releasing a lower-sodium hamburger. The results over the following decades, sodium intake dropped 30%. Average systolic blood pressure dropped 10 points. And in the middle-aged population, death rates from heart attack and stroke decreased by 80%. Life expectancy went up by years for both men and women, 80%, from food policy. Let that number sit with you as we go through this list. Food number 1, leafy greens, Spinach, Swiss chard, kale. Let's start here because this is the foundation of every evidence-based blood pressure diet ever studied, and most people are still not eating nearly enough of it. Swiss chard and spinach are extraordinary. A single cooked cup of Swiss chard delivers 961 milligrams of potassium and 150 milligrams of magnesium. That's hitting 2 of our 4 key nutrients in one bowl. A 2022 study found that among people with high sodium levels, which based on the average diet is most of us, every single gram increase in daily potassium was linked to a 2.4-point drop in systolic blood pressure. Spinach adds another mechanism. It's high in natural nitrates, which convert to nitric oxide and dilate your arteries. Kale brings calcium into the equation. Calcium helps regulate how your blood vessels tighten and relax. Potassium, magnesium, nitrates, calcium. One food category. That is why every blood pressure diet in existence leads with greens. What quantity? Aim for at least 2 cups of raw or 1 cup of cooked leafy greens daily. The evidence supports this as a consistent threshold. Food number 2, citrus fruits, oranges, grapefruit, lemons. A 2021 study that reviewed a decade of research on fruit and blood pressure found that eating roughly 530 to 600 grams of fruit per day, that's about 4 medium oranges, was consistently beneficial for blood pressure management. And citrus specifically showed a stronger link than other fruit categories. Why? Citrus fruits are loaded with vitamin C, flavonoids, and potassium. The flavonoids reduce oxidative stress in blood vessel walls. The potassium does its job relaxing and flushing sodium. Drinking orange and grapefruit juice can also help reduce blood pressure. But I need to give you an important warning here, and this is not something most food videos will tell you. Caution: if you are already on blood pressure medication, grapefruit and grapefruit juice can interfere with how those drugs are metabolized. Please speak with your doctor before adding grapefruit to your routine if you are on medication. Food number 3, berries. Blueberries, cranberries, strawberries, berries are one of the most underrated weapons in this arsenal, and I think they're underrated specifically because people think of them as a snack rather than medicine. Berries are packed with anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep color. Anthocyanins do something specific and important. They increase nitric oxide levels in the blood while simultaneously reducing the production of molecules that restrict blood flow. That is a direct blood pressure mechanism. A 2020 review of clinical studies found that various forms of berries, whole, freeze-dried, or juice, reduce systolic blood pressure by over 3 millimeters of mercury. The strongest single effect came from cranberry juice. 3 points from berries sounds small in isolation, but remember, we're building a dietary system here. 3 points from berries, 5 from potassium, 3 from omega-3s. You start to see how a diet built around these foods begins to move the needle by 10, 12, 15 points without a single pill. How much? Half a cup to 1 cup daily. Frozen berries are just as effective as fresh and often more affordable. What foods will you be taking today? Not yet sure? Well, we are still looking at more foods. Food number 4, bananas, avocados, and sweet potatoes, potassium trio. I'm grouping these 3 together because they all punch in the same category: concentrated potassium sources that are accessible, versatile, and easy to add to any diet. Bananas are the most famous potassium food, but here's what most people don't realize. A medium banana gives you about 422 milligrams of potassium. A medium baked potato with skin gives you 926 milligrams, more than double. A 2021 study fed participants a diet that included 1,000 milligrams of potassium daily from potatoes, boiled, baked, or pan-heated, for 17 days. At the end of the study, systolic blood pressure was significantly reduced as part of an overall high-potassium eating plan. Avocados pair potassium with healthy monounsaturated fats, which add another layer of cardiovascular benefit. Sweet potatoes bring potassium, magnesium, and fiber together in one package. Banana on your breakfast, sweet potato with dinner, avocado on everything. These are not health trends, these are clinically supported tools. Food number 5, salmon and fatty fish, omega-3 heavy hitters. Now we shift mechanisms entirely. We've been talking about potassium and nitrates. Now we need to talk about inflammation, because chronic low-grade inflammation in your blood vessel walls is one of the primary drivers of sustained high blood pressure. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA found in fatty fish, directly suppress that inflammation. They also improve the flexibility of artery walls and reduce the rate at which arterial plaque accumulates. A 2022 meta-analysis looked at 71 separate studies involving nearly 5,000 people. It found that the sweet spot for blood pressure reduction was consuming between 2 to 3 grams of omega-3 fats daily, roughly 1 3.5-ounce serving of salmon. The researchers also found that higher omega-3 intake may reduce the risk of developing high blood pressure even in adults as young as 18 with no prior history of heart disease. This matters because most people think of blood pressure as a problem you manage after you have it. The food evidence suggests it's something you can actively prevent through diet starting right now at any age. Other excellent fatty fish options: mackerel, sardines, herring, and tuna. If you don't eat fish, walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds are plant-based omega-3 sources worth incorporating. Recommended quantity: 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week consistently delivers the omega-3 load associated with blood pressure benefit in the research. Food number 6, beets, the nitric oxide bomb. Beets deserve a moment of their own, and I want to give it to them, because the mechanism here is particularly well studied and particularly powerful. Beetroot is one of the richest dietary sources of inorganic nitrates on the planet. When you eat beets or drink beetroot juice, the nitrates are converted by bacteria in your mouth and then by your body into nitric oxide. And nitric oxide does one thing with extraordinary efficiency: it causes your blood vessel walls to relax and dilate. The research on beet juice specifically shows that effects on blood pressure can begin within hours of consumption. For people who want a measurable acute effect from a single food, beet juice is one of the strongest contenders in the literature. How much? 1 cup of cooked beets, or around 200 to 250 milliliters of unsweetened beet juice. Raw, roasted, or juiced, all formats are effective. Food number 7, broccoli, the flavonoid factory. Broccoli is loaded with flavonoid antioxidants, particularly a class called flavin-3 OLs. These compounds improve blood vessel function and help increase nitric oxide levels. A 2024 study with over 8,000 participants found a significant negative association between hypertension and flavin-3 intake. An earlier study from 2015 tracked 187,453 people and found that those eating 4 or more servings of broccoli per week had a meaningfully lower likelihood of high blood pressure compared to those eating it once a month or less. Not broccoli powder, not supplements, 4 servings of actual broccoli per week. More so, broccoli also contains calcium, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin C, stacking multiple blood pressure mechanisms in one vegetable. Food number 8, tomatoes, lycopene and the heart. Tomatoes bring a nutrient we haven't discussed yet, lycopene. Lycopene is a carotenoid pigment, the compound that makes tomatoes red, and it has been significantly linked to cardiovascular protection. Research suggests that consuming tomatoes and tomato products improves blood pressure and may reduce your overall risk of heart disease. Tomatoes also provide potassium, vitamin C, and fiber, making them a multi-mechanism food. Here's the interesting wrinkle with tomatoes. Cooking them actually increases the bioavailability of lycopene. Tomato paste, tomato sauce, and cooked tomatoes deliver more lycopene than raw. So that marinara sauce you love, actually one of the better ways to get this nutrient. One practical tip: tomato paste has an extremely concentrated lycopene content. Even a tablespoon or 2 added to a meal contributes meaningfully. Food number 9, carrots. The 10% rule. This one surprised me when I first read the research. A 2023 study found that the likelihood of high blood pressure went down by approximately 10% for roughly every 100 grams of carrots eaten daily. That's about 1 cup of grated raw carrots, 10% risk reduction from 1 cup of carrots. Carrots are high in the plant-based compound phenolic acids and beta-carotene and contribute to potassium intake. They also happen to be one of the most affordable and accessible vegetables on the planet. If you're looking for an easy win to add to your daily routine, carrots as a snack raw with a little hummus is honestly one of the simplest blood pressure interventions that exists. Food number 10, garlic and key herbs and spices. Garlic deserves its own video, frankly. Allicin, the active compound released when you crush or chop fresh garlic, has been studied extensively for its blood vessel relaxing effects. It activates nitric oxide production and has direct anti-hypertensive properties in the research literature. But I want to broaden this section to herbs and spices in general, because here's a finding most people have never heard. A 2021 study on 71 people with risk factors for heart disease found that seasoning food with 6.6 grams, about 1.3 teaspoons of a blend of 24 herbs and spices per day was linked to lower blood pressure after just 4 weeks, compared to those using lower amounts. The key herbs and spices with specific blood pressure research behind them include garlic, cinnamon, ginger, basil, oregano, turmeric, cardamom, black pepper, and celery seed. The mechanism varies by spice. Some reduce inflammation. Some directly relax blood vessel walls. Some support kidney function. But the cumulative message is clear. Aggressively seasoning your food with real herbs and spices is not just about flavor. It's a measurable cardiovascular intervention. Practical. Start building a habit of heavily seasoning every meal with garlic fresh, crushed, and 2 or 3 herbs. It is one of the lowest effort, highest impact dietary changes on this entire list. Food number 11, nuts and seeds, the overnight performers. Almonds, walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, pistachios. I want to spend extra time here because the research on nuts and seeds is nuanced in a way I think you need to understand. Nuts and seeds deliver fiber, magnesium, and arginine, an amino acid your body uses to produce nitric oxide. Walnuts and flax seeds also provide plant-based omega-3s, bringing the anti-inflammatory mechanism we discussed with salmon. Now, the clinical evidence for nuts and seeds on blood pressure is mixed. Some studies show positive effects, others don't. But researchers believe the reason is that most studies have been too short in duration to capture the full effect. The argument for including them is strong from a mechanistic and nutritional standpoint. Let me give you one specific standout: pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are one of the richest plant sources of magnesium, and the magnesium blood pressure connection is one of the most consistent in the literature. 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds gives you about 37% of your daily magnesium requirement. Flax seeds are particularly interesting for a different reason. They're high in omega-3s, fiber, and lignans, plant compounds that support healthy vascular function. A tablespoon of ground flaxseed on your oatmeal or in a smoothie is essentially invisible from a taste standpoint but nutritionally significant. Recommended intake: a small handful of mixed nuts daily, about 30 grams, and 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed or chia seeds is a practical, sustainable target. Food number 12, olive oil, the Mediterranean Foundation. When researchers study the Mediterranean diet's cardiovascular effects, olive oil consistently emerges as one of the key active components. A 2020 review concluded that the combination of oleic acid and omega-9 fat and antioxidant polyphenols in olive oil makes it genuinely beneficial for lowering blood pressure and other cardiovascular risk factors. The polyphenols in extra virgin olive oil reduce oxidative stress in blood vessel walls. They also have mild anti-inflammatory effects that compound over time with consistent use. The key word here is extra virgin. Light olive oil and refined olive oil have significantly lower polyphenol content. For the blood pressure benefit, you want cold-pressed, extra virgin. To use this, replace butter, vegetable oil, and seed oils in your cooking with extra virgin olive oil. Use it on salads, drizzle it on vegetables. This is a simple substitution with substantial long-term evidence behind it. Food number 13, yogurt, the dairy surprise. Dairy is controversial in nutrition circles, but when it comes to blood pressure, the evidence is actually quite consistent, and yogurt is the star of the category. A 2017 review of 28 studies found that consuming 3 servings of dairy per day was linked with a 13% lower likelihood of developing high blood pressure. A 2021 study showed that among people who already had high blood pressure, having 1 serving of yogurt per day was linked to lower systolic blood pressure levels. And further research suggests that increasing yogurt consumption, say, moving from 2 times a week to 5 times a week, may produce a meaningful reduction in systolic pressure. Why? Yogurt is a concentrated source of potassium, calcium, and magnesium, 3 of our 4 key blood pressure nutrients in one food. Greek yogurt, in particular, has an excellent nutrient profile for this purpose. Note: stick to plain, full-fat or low-fat yogurt without added sugars. Sweetened yogurts can spike insulin, which, as we've seen from the metabolic syndrome research, actually worsens blood pressure long-term. Food number 14, EGGS, the vindicated food. Eggs have had a turbulent relationship with cardiovascular health advice over the decades. Let me give you the current evidence, not the 1980s advice. A 2023 study of 2,349 adults in the United States found that eating 5 or more eggs per week was linked to a systolic blood pressure that was 2.5 millimeters Hg lower than people who ate fewer than half an egg per week. Egg eaters also had a significantly lower likelihood of developing high blood pressure over the long term. The research also suggests that adults in good health may eat up to 3 eggs per day without significant adverse effects on other cardiovascular risk factors. Eggs bring high-quality protein, choline, vitamins B12 and D, and selenium, nutrients involved in blood vessel function and systemic inflammation regulation. The egg's historical reputation as a blood pressure villain was largely based on cholesterol concerns that have since been substantially revised. Here as a takeaway: 5 eggs a week is a defensible, evidence-supported target. Hard-boiled eggs are one of the most convenient blood pressure-friendly snacks that exists. Food number 15, whole grains, amaranth, oats, quinoa. The relationship between whole grains and blood pressure is built primarily on fiber. Fiber feeds healthy gut bacteria, which produce short-chain fatty acids, and those short-chain fatty acids have a direct blood pressure-lowering effect via multiple pathways, including reducing inflammation and improving kidney function. A 2017 review of 28 studies found that every 30-gram increase in daily whole grain consumption was linked with an 8% reduced likelihood of high blood pressure. Amaranth deserves special mention here. It's a whole grain that is particularly high in magnesium. 1 cooked cup provides 160 milligrams. If you haven't cooked with amaranth, it's worth discovering. It has a nutty flavor, cooks quickly, and works as both a breakfast porridge and a side dish. Oats are the most accessible whole grain for most people. 1 cup of oatmeal provides 4 grams of fiber and meaningful magnesium. If you're looking for one breakfast change to make this week, replacing processed cereal with oats is it. Food number 16, kiwi fruit, small but specific. Kiwi doesn't get nearly enough attention in blood pressure conversations, and I want to fix that briefly. A 2022 study of 43 healthy adults found that eating 2 kiwis at breakfast every day for 7 weeks resulted in systolic blood pressure that was 2.7 millimeters Hg lower than the control group. 2 kiwis, 7 weeks, nearly 3 points off the top number. Kiwi is high in vitamin C, fiber, potassium, magnesium, and polyphenols, essentially a concentrated delivery of multiple blood pressure mechanisms in a small, low-calorie package. To put this into practice, take 2 kiwis at breakfast. That is literally the intervention from the study. It's one of the most specific, replicable dietary prescriptions in this entire list. Food number 17, lean proteins, chicken, turkey, and diversity. Our final food is actually a category: high-quality lean animal protein, skinless chicken breast, lean turkey, and moderate fish. Here's the research finding worth highlighting. Scientists in China studied 8 different protein sources and blood pressure outcomes. People who ate the highest variety of protein sources, 4 or more, Different types had a 66% lower chance of developing high blood pressure compared to those eating fewer protein types. 66%. Not from any single superfood. From dietary diversity and protein variety. Lean proteins provide high-quality amino acids that support blood vessel repair, arginine for nitric oxide production, and B vitamins for cardiovascular function without the saturated fat load of processed meats that drives blood vessel inflammation. Let me bring all of this together now, because 17 foods can feel overwhelming if you don't have a framework. The reason all of these foods work is that they attack high blood pressure through 4 distinct mechanisms. Potassium, which relaxes blood vessels and flushes sodium. Magnesium, which relaxes vascular smooth muscle. Nitric oxide, which dilates arteries. And omega-3s, which reduce the arterial inflammation that stiffens vessels over time. The most powerful dietary framework that captures all of this is the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. The DASH diet has been proven to lower blood pressure by 5 to 6 points on its own. It emphasizes whole foods, lean proteins, and drastically reduced processed food consumption. But here's the thing about DASH, and this is important. The diet works not because of any single food. It works because of the cumulative nutritional environment it creates in your body. Now, I want to raise one more concept from the clinical research that I think is underappreciated. Dr. Jamnadas, a cardiologist and interventional specialist with over 3 decades of practice, makes a critical point. For a significant portion of hypertension patients, metabolic syndrome is the underlying driver. High insulin levels from processed food consumption paralyze the arteries and prevent them from dilating properly. What does that mean for your food strategy? It means that what you remove from your diet matters as much as what you add. Every processed food, refined carbohydrate, and artificial ingredient you reduce is allowing your insulin sensitivity to recover, and when insulin sensitivity recovers, blood pressure often follows. Diet is the mechanism. The foods in this video are the tools. The goal is to build a consistent dietary environment, not to eat 2 kiwis and call it medicine. Your practical weekly framework. Daily. 2 cups of leafy greens, 1 or 2 pieces of citrus fruit, 1 serving of berries, garlic, and herbs, heavily used in at least 1 meal, a handful of nuts or seeds, 4 to 5 times per week. Oily fish or high plant omega, 3 sources, cooked beets or beet juice, broccoli or other cruciferous vegetables, whole grains at breakfast. At every meal, extra virgin olive oil instead of refined oils, real whole food protein sources, maximum variety in what you eat. Every week, try to expand the variety of what's on your plate. The protein diversity study showed us that eating a wider range of whole foods, 4 or more different protein types weekly, was associated with a 66% lower hypertension risk. That is the most compelling single argument for dietary diversity I've seen in this literature. I want to be honest with you, these changes do not happen overnight. The Finland study took decades to show its full impact. The clinical studies showing benefits from specific foods run from 4 weeks to several months. This is not a quick fix. It is a lifestyle architecture. But here's the empowering flip side of that. You don't have to do everything at once. Pick 1 food from this list. Eat it consistently for the next 30 days. Then add another. Sustainability is the variable that determines whether any dietary intervention actually works in the real world. Over 1 billion people worldwide have high blood pressure. That is 1 in every 8 people. Half of them are not managing it. And a significant percentage of them are sitting within reach of tools at the grocery store, in their kitchen, on their plate that could meaningfully change their numbers. You just watched tens of minutes of clinical evidence suggesting that food is not secondary to your blood pressure treatment. For many people, it is the treatment. Now, I said it earlier and I'll say it again here because I want to be responsible about this. If your blood pressure is critically high, if you're already on medication, if you have kidney disease, talk to your doctor before making dramatic dietary changes. Potassium in particular requires caution if you have kidney issues. But for the overwhelming majority of people watching this video, the science is telling you something clear. What you eat every day is either working for your arteries or against them. I want to challenge you to do one thing right now. Pick one food from this video that you are not currently eating consistently. Write it in the comments below. Tell me what you're going to add. That act of commitment, publicly stating what you're going to do, is one of the most powerful behavioral tools in behavior change research. What food are you starting with? If this video was useful to you, share it with someone you know whose blood pressure is something they're thinking about. 1 billion people are affected by this. Most of them are looking for exactly what you just watched. Stay curious, eat deliberately, and I'll see you in the next one.